Hello and welcome to English Stories with Louisa. I'm your host, Louisa, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey of exploring fascinating stories, learning new things, and improving your English skills. In this channel, we'll dive into a world of captivating tales, from classic literature to modern narratives, all presented in a fun and engaging way. So sit back, relax, and let's get started on this adventure together. You know that person. The one who looks at your life and assumes they know everything about it. The kind of person who sees you working from home and thinks you're just sitting around. I had a neighbor like that, and he kept checking in on me with condescending comments, so I decided to do him a favor. I gave his wife a very good reason to check in on him instead. If you've ever had a busybody in your life who needed a healthy dose of karma, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a story about how a little truth can be the most satisfying revenge of all. My name is Lena, and for the past few years my life has been pretty good. I work from home, which means my commute is about 20 feet from my bedroom to my home office. I pay my bills, I mind my own business, and I love the peace and quiet of my suburban neighborhood. My days are structured, busy, and fulfilling. The only real wrinkle in this otherwise perfect existence was my neighbor. Let's call him Gary. From the moment I moved in, Gary seemed to take it upon himself to be the self-appointed neighborhood watchman, specifically over my life. He was a guy who thrived on a kind of condescending masculinity, the kind that believes a woman's value is tied to her dependency on a man. My independence seemed to be a personal affront to his worldview. Started small. When I was bringing in groceries, he'd be standing in his driveway, arms crossed, with a look on his face like he was doing a mental audit of my purchases. "What do you even do all day?" he'd throw out, the question laced with a thick layer of judgment. I'd just smile and say, "Oh, you know, this and that," and keep walking. But his comments grew more direct, more personal. He'd catch me watering my lawn or getting the mail, and his favorite line was, "Must be nice to live off of other people's hard work." My blood would start to boil every time he said it, but I'd just breathe, remind myself that his opinion didn't matter, and keep my cool. I'm a woman who works in tech, a field that's demanding and fast-paced. I built my career from the ground up. His words weren't just a slight. They were a complete dismissal of my hard work, my intelligence, and my ability to stand on my own 2 feet. He saw a woman at home during the day and assumed the worst, projecting his own narrow-minded beliefs onto my life. It was infuriating. The tension simmered for months. Every time I saw him, my shoulders would tense up. I tried to make my trips outside as quick as possible just to avoid his prying eyes and condescending comments. The internal monologue was a constant battle. "Don't say anything. It's not worth it. He's just an idiot." Then came the day of the last straw. I was outside on a warm afternoon, watering my potted plants. It was a peaceful moment, the kind I cherished. The spray of the water, the feel of the sun on my skin. And then I heard his voice, a venomous whisper from his yard. "Guess it's easier than getting a real job." My hand froze on the hose. A wave of heat rushed through me, not from the sun, but from a surge of pure, concentrated fury. I turned to look at him. He was leaning against his fence, a smug, satisfied smirk on his face, as if he had just delivered the ultimate checkmate. For a moment I wanted to yell, to tell him exactly what I did for a living, to tell him he had no right to judge me. But then an idea, a little flicker of pure genius, took hold. I simply smiled. Slow, quiet, knowing smile. He didn't know it yet, but he had just given me all the ammunition I needed. You see, I didn't need to yell at Gary. I had something far more powerful than words. I had a secret his own wife probably didn't even know. My brother-in-law had told me about it a while back. He had a buddy who was invited by Gary to poker night at a bar downtown. My brother-in-law went, and later told me the truth. It wasn't poker. It was a back room filled with the kind of people who lose rent money on slot machines and video poker. Gary was a gambler. A closet gambler who told his wife he was out playing cards with the guys. And this wasn't a one-time thing. He had a pattern. Every Thursday afternoon, without fail, he'd sneak off for his little habit. This information had been sitting in my mental back pocket for months. A piece of useless trivia about a man I couldn't stand. But in that moment, as he smirked at me from across the lawn, it became a weapon. A simple, elegant, and perfectly placed weapon. I waited a week. I wanted to make sure the timing was perfect. I was patient. I continued to ignore him, and he, for his part, seemed to have forgotten about our last exchange. Thursday came. I knew he would be gone for his poker night. I saw his wife, let's call her Sarah, walk out to get the mail. This was my chance. I calmly walked to the edge of my lawn, a bucket in hand as if I was just tidying up. I put on a friendly, innocent smile. I acted like I was just making small talk. "Hey, Sarah," I said, my voice light and cheerful. She looked up from her mailbox, a little surprised to see me talking to her. I walked a bit closer, just enough so my voice wouldn't carry. And with the nonchalant tone of someone discussing the weather, I delivered the line I had been rehearsing in my head for a week. "I thought I saw your husband at O'Malley's again last Thursday. Does he ever win at those machines, or is it just for fun?" I watched her face as the words sank in. The color drained from her cheeks. Her eyebrows furrowed in confusion, then in suspicion. She froze, a letter clutched in her hand. What did you say?" she asked, her voice a low whisper. I feigned innocence, the kind of innocence only a truly guilty person can pull off. "Oh, maybe I mixed up the day," I said with a shrug. "But he goes pretty often, right? For poker night." I gave a little wave and turned to go inside, leaving the question hanging in the air like a cloud of smoke. I could feel her eyes on my back as I walked away. I didn't have to look back to know that the seed was planted, and it was about to grow into a very big problem for Gary. That night, my revenge was served, not with a flourish, but with the sound of a verbal war. From my living room I heard it. The screaming. Sarah's voice, sharp and furious, followed by Gary's deep, defensive roar. The argument raged, a furious storm of accusations and denials. I didn't need to look through the blinds. I knew exactly what was being said, what was being confessed, and what was being denied. It was glorious. The noise was the most satisfying thing I had heard in a long time. It was the sound of a man's secret crumbling, of his hypocrisy being exposed. He had spent months trying to poke holes in my life, and I had just exposed the gaping hole in his. The next day, Gary wouldn't even look at me. When I went to get my mail, he was in his yard, but his head was pointed resolutely in the other direction. When I was outside on my porch, he was suddenly busy with something in his garage. His arrogant stare was gone, replaced by a deep-seated shame. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about confrontation or physical harm. It's about holding up a mirror to someone, forcing them to look at their own flaws. Gary wanted to question my life, but in the end, I was the one who forced him to face the mess he had been hiding in his own. If this story gave you a good laugh, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories just like this.